this is Cara, and I am working on my altered book. I'm going to focus on the hidden apothecary portion of the book today. I ordered these Matchbox boxes from Tim Holtz, and I thought these could act as a shelf inside of the apothecary. So I'm going to take some time and kind of figure out how I want them to be in the book. Okay, after I had an idea of how I wanted the items to be placed in the apothecary, I then decided to dye some of the Tim Holtz baubles. This is my first time, so this was pretty exciting. I pulled out the greens and purples that I had and a couple other colors. I know that there's brighter greens in the alcohol inks, and I think I would have preferred that, but oh, I tossed one out. But they turn out okay. One thing I want to figure out in the future, and you'll see this later in the video, is how to glue the baubles down without getting lots of glue on the parts that show. I had glue and it just, I mean, it looks okay, but it definitely doesn't have the clear glass look because it has glue on the front. So that's something I need to kind of play with. I think if I had the Ranger collage glue that in a bottle, that might have been better because I have it in a little pot. So that's something to think about for future Tim Holtz types of projects. Here I'm tossing in a different color that's a bit brighter of a green, and I think I end up liking this one better. So yeah, this was a lot of fun, and it's really, really quick, and I should have actually made a few more than I did. It ends up okay, I think, in the long run, but I think a few more little baubles would have been really fun. Alright, after I make some green ones, here in a second, decided to move on to purple, and I wasn't going to mix them, but I end up mixing them, and I think they are really fun. So there's some green baubles in the make, and then there's also some purple baubles. And they turn out really, really cute. I was going to figure out the lights, but since this is my first project like this, I thought, alright, I will upgrade to lights in my next make and just kind of figure out some of the different nuances of making a project like this, and then upgrade to lights in my next project. I'm hoping to make a vignette from a vignette tray that I've been holding on to for a couple years. So I'm thinking in that project, I'm going to get out the drill and the whole nine and get some lights. So I love how the purple ones turned out too. They're really fun. And then I also have some glass bottles, so I'm going to dye those also. And I know that he talks about moss as one of the colors that he uses, or his makers use. I didn't have moss, so I kind of mixed a couple colors. I think I used a red, like a deep red. It kind of looks brown, and then I kind of made a brownish color with mixing some of the alcohol inks. So after I would put the ink in, I would kind of swirl it around and I didn't really want a bunch of it sitting at the bottom, so I would turn them upside down and hope that the ink would slide down the glass. For the most part it did, and the tall one, there's a little line of ink, but I think it's okay. And this is my first try, so I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. All right, so I set aside my glass items, let those dry, and now I'm going to move on to covering this matchbox. I end up with using only one matchbox in the project, and so I have plenty for future projects. And I'm looking through the Tim Holtz Halloween ephemera from this year to see if there's anything that I want to add to the top of the matchbooks. I also know that I want to have a couple books, so I get sidetracked and pull a couple books out. I love these little books. They're very, very cool. And then I end up not finding anything in the the ephemera, but I do find a backdrop that I like that coordinates with the kit that's also in the altered book. Alright, so this is the page I found. I love this purple. It's perfect, matches perfectly. So I'm just measuring the matchbox, and I'm going to add the paper to 3 sides of the matchbox, and then I trim it down. And then I also want to add a piece of the paper inside of the matchbox. So I'm going to trim that piece to the right to make a piece that will fit inside. And then once I have the piece cut to size, I add some ink to the inside of the box, and I try to get in the edges using another sponge, or taking my sponge off my dauber thing and putting it in, and then ink my edges. And then I added some more of the paper to the 3 sides that show on the inside of the matchbox. So I'm trying to give it a little grunge, and then here I'm adding the 3 sides to the inside. Man, if we could work this quick, wouldn't that be awesome? Could you think how many projects we could have finished? So I kind of trim that up. Alright, and once the box is all put together with the paper, I wanted to get an idea of how I want things to go again. Everything kind of keeps changing, and it even changes from this little layout that I have here. I wanted to see how the baubles looked inside of the box, and here I was playing around some more with more arranging. I have the books, I have my glass bottles, I found a pumpkin I forgot I had, and now I'm going to add some paper to those mini books. So I took some scraps of copy dyed paper, and then I'm going to trim them down, and I took the individual pieces and just kind of glued them in the spine. At first I was going to do it like a signature, but then I decided to take the pages out from each other so they're all separate, and then I glue them that way. And I think that actually looks better, especially because these books are going to be glued in this project. So you're really not going to take out the book and flip the pages. I wanted it to look, more from the sides or the top to show that there's pages in the book. And then again, I just add some glue in the spine. All right, before I started to glue anything into the back of the book, I wanted to add some other pieces because Tim Holtz is always saying details, details, and a lot of his makers always add little bits that you don't really know that are there, but you kind of know, if that makes any sense. And so I wanted to do a similar thing. So I found some different pieces, and they're there, but they don't jump out at you, but it is a little detail. So I thought that would be fun. And as I go through the project, I keep adding more of these to the back. All right, so I'm letting that dry, and then I move on to some of this Dollar Tree moss that I found, which is perfect to add some details. And I decided to tone down the bright green to make it a little more spooky. And I'm using, I think it's Gathered Twigs oxide spray. And then I eventually use some black soot also in a couple pieces. But here I just wanted to tone it down and make it not so bright foresty green, but more, like it's been around a while and it's grungy. So I took out different pieces. And what's fun about this bag, first, it's huge and you can use it forever. But there's different types of little pieces. Some are more branch-like, and then some are just squishy moss-like, which is really, really fun. All right, so my moss is now set aside and is drying. And I have a pack of itty bitty small labels. And I'm going to add these. I should have done it before I glued them in, but I'm going to add these to my bottles. So I did quite a few things without recording. um, I added some grit paste. I think my things are glued in at this point. You'll see the baubles. I glued those in. You'll see the layers behind. I added some paint to the bat and the owl, the metal pieces. And the books are glued in. I think everything at this point is glued in. To the top left, I also added a spider. You can't see it dangling now, but I tucked in a string to the book pages, so when the book is standing up, the spider looks like it's crawling down from the top of the page. Really fun. So at this point, I'm getting close to being done. I think I add a bit more grit paste. Oh, and I also added the bones in the top right. Really, really fun. I really enjoyed making this portion of the book. Oh, and I guess the sides, I added the owl pieces. I didn't want the stark book pages, so I kind of thought I would tone it down with that. And yeah, just adding the labels. Should have done it before. This has definitely been a learning curve. I like the butterfly little piece of ephemera too, and the purple butterfly. I think that looks really awesome. So yeah, it's coming along. I'm very excited. All right, so now my moss is dry, and I'm going to add some moss around the mushrooms. So I'm getting an idea how much. Also a learning curve, adding the glue. Tweezers would be a nice tool to have. I couldn't find my tweezers, but it would have been helpful to kind of help place the moss where it needed to go. I think I end up using like the end of a paintbrush. And then I do put some moss in the top left. All right, to make sure that I'm getting it tucked in, I lift up the book, and so I can cover up the glue. Kind of move it around. I love how the books look. You can see the pages. Looks really cool. From this angle, you don't really see the spider dangling yet, but it's a really neat thing too. And here, I think I'm going to bring in the paintbrush. Yep, kind of help push it down, smush it in there. I like the baubles, but see how you can kind of tell that there's glue kind of on the front of them? So I need a way to figure out how to glue those baubles down without getting the glue on the part that shows. Looks pretty cool. And then I'm going to go in and add some moss around the candles. And then after the candles, I'm going to add some moss to the top left. So there's kind of, I like things in threes, even though I only have 2 mushrooms. So I had some on the bottom, the middle, and the top of the page. And I think it adds some fun texture to that section of the project. Alright, so now I'm going in with some grit paste and I'm kind of filling in, there were some gaps between the Matchbox and the book, so I kind of wanted to fill those in and make it look, a little creepy and like it was all meant to be cohesive and go together. On the left there was quite a bit of a gap, so that's definitely going to take some time to dry. And I kept filling it in and it needed more, fill it in and it needed more, but I think eventually I get it. And I just wanted to add some other crypt paste around some of the owl strips. I don't know what they're like cigar box tops or something. It was in the Ephemera pack. And so I'm going to add some paste around there as well. Once I was happy with the grit paste, I added another one of the buttons as a black rose. I thought it was perfect. Added a little grit paste down at where the jars are. And coming up, I have a close-up picture of the Apothecary, and then I'm going to add some more fun things to the front pages, and then next up would be the cover. Alright, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderfully crafty day. Bye-bye!